I hope that you're well and also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today we'll be doing our grade 1 English lesson on adjectives. And before we start with our lesson on adjectives, we're going to log into aplusstudents.ca. Once we've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, and then we're going to select our subject of language arts. Grade 1. And then we're going to scroll down up until we get to the chapter of adjectives. All right. So we're going to divide our lessons into, let's say, two different days, if we should put it like that. So today we're only going to do a few of these lessons, and then on our next lesson we will do the others. So when it comes to, all right, so our chapter is adjectives. Our subject is English language art. Grade 1. And the lessons that we're going to be focusing on under the chapter of adjectives is to compare pictures using adjectives, use number words, and does the adjective tell you what kind or does it tell you how many? And an adjective is a word that tells about a person, animal, place, or thing. So an adjective, right? It is a word that tells a person, it tells about a person, animal, place, or thing. So it basically describes the person, describes the animal, describes the place, or describes a thing. And some adjectives, they will tell us what kind, and some of the adjectives will tell us how many, all right? And the adjectives that tell you what kind. For example, it says, Tom sees a big truck. So, which means that our adjective over here will be big, right? Because now you ask yourself, what kind of truck did you see? And then you say, I saw a big truck. I saw a long train. I saw a small car. And we have a red bull, which means that our adjective that tells us what kind will be red. Because now you ask yourself, what kind of bull? You can say it's a red bull, blue bull, green bull, blue bull, yellow bull. And then we have adjectives that tell us how many. And how many is usually things that you can count. For example, Kim sees 2 trees. So basically, you ask yourself, how many trees did Kim see? So, how many trees did Kim see? Kim saw 2 trees or sees 2 trees. And I have 3 dogs. So now you ask yourself, how many dogs do you have? Or you ask the next person, how many dogs do you have? And they're like, I have 3 dogs. So how many dogs? 3 dogs, 2 dogs, 1 dog, right? So these are basically adjectives, right? Because we see that adjective, it is a word that tells you about a person, animal, place, or thing. And an adjective, it describes or tells us more, right? So it basically just tells us more about the person, the place, an animal, or thing. So it describes that place, that animal, that person, or that thing, right? And we ask ourselves what kind, and you also ask yourselves how many. And once again, we're going to, our lessons are to compare pictures using adjectives, use number words, and also does the adjective tell us what kind or how many. And we are doing our tutorial lesson on A plus students.ca. So we are doing our tutorial lesson on A plus students.ca. Right? right. So we say that we are doing our tutorial lesson on aplusstudents.ca. And before we go to aplusstudents.ca, once again, our adjective is our chapter is adjectives, English language arts, grade 1, and our lessons are to compare pictures using adjectives, use number words, and does the adjective tell you what kind or how many? So we're going to aplusstudents.ca, and we're going to the first lesson, which is to compare pictures using adjectives. And we said adjectives, it is a word that tells us about the person, an animal, place, or thing. And some adjectives tells you what kind. And I always say it is an adjective is a word that would describe the noun, right? So it describes the noun, which is the person, animal, place, or thing. So that is an adjective. And we said that Tom sees a big truck. And we asked us, and remember, you need to ask what kind of truck. Whenever there's a sentence, and then you need to either ask yourself what kind, or you need to ask yourself how many, right? So in this case, Tom sees a big truck. So now you ask yourself, like, what kind of truck? And then they will say it is a big truck. So basically, our adjective that we identify is big. And then we have a red bull. Red bull. So you need to ask yourself again, what kind of bull? And they'll either say it's a red bull, a blue bull, green bull. What kind of truck is it? They'll say it's a big truck, small car, red truck, blue truck, right? So these things, they will tell you what kind. And then on the other side, they will tell us how many. And on our tutorial page, we said we're going to compare pictures using adjectives. And if we look at an example, not an example, but if we look at a little activity, it says find the warm room. Find the warm room. And if we were to find the warm room, then over here we'll find the warm room. So which means that this will be the warm room where the girl is sitting in front of the fireplace. All right. So she's sitting in front of the fireplace and she's not just heating up herself, but she's heating up the room. And if we were to, it says the adjective, before we go to the adjective, they said we need to find the happy baby. And if they wanted to know where is the happy baby, it says the adjective happy tells you what kind of baby it is. So over here, adjective is happy. And the question was, where will you find a happy baby? Right? Which means that the word happy, it describes or tells us about the baby or tells us what kind of baby to find. And we need to find a happy baby. We need to then also find the dark sky. And once again, we see that adjectives, it tells us what kind and it tells us how many. All right. And then also, they ask for dark skies. And if we look at this specific picture, then over here, oopsie, we have dark skies. And the dark tells us what kind of sky to find. All right. So now we're going to our test where we're going to compare pictures using adjectives. So remember when we look at specific things, right? We need to firstly say, what does it tell? Does it ask us what kind or does it ask us how many, right? And that is about the easiest way also for you to find out which one is an adjective that tells us more about the person, animal, place, or thing. So at the same like saying we need to find the red book. And over here we say find the red book. And if we find the red book, then there we go. And that one is correct. We need to find the short bookshelf. A short bookshelf or the one that is a bit smaller. So we need to find the short bookshelf or bookcase or we need to just specifically find the one that is smaller in size. And if we were to find the short put case, then we will choose the top one. And we need to find the flat land, meaning we don't see any hills, we don't see any mountains, just flat land. Is it the top picture or it is the bottom picture? And if we were to find the flat land, we will choose the bottom one. All right. And then we need to find the warm room. Is it the top picture or the bottom picture? The warm room. And if we find the warm room, then we will choose the top one. And the top one is correct. So we're going into the next lesson where we said that we first compared pictures using adjectives. And remember I said that you need to ask yourself like what kind, or you need to ask yourself like how many, right? So now we're going into the other or the next lesson, which is to use number words. Remember, we said that in our previous one that adjectives will either tell us what kind or adjective will tell us how many. So in this case, in this lesson, right, we need to use number words. And here they will basically ask questions like what how many, right? Because with adjectives you can either ask what kind, right? Or how many. And if we look at the airplanes over here, it says how many airplanes are there? Because that is an adjective. An adjective will ask us how many, or to ask you what kind. So if you were to ask how many airplanes there are, we'll say there are two airplanes. And then we have one and we have another one. So we have two airplanes. And then we said that our adjective is a word that tells us about a person, animal, place, or thing. And we said some adjectives will tell us what kind, and some adjectives will tell us how many. For example, Kim sees two trees. So now you need to ask yourself, like, oh, like, how many trees are there? So it's two trees. And the next one is, I have three puppies. So Kim sees two trees. And also, I have three dogs. So Kim sees two trees, and I have three dogs. And we see that adjectives will, it tells us about the person, tells us about the animal, place, or thing. So once again, the adjectives they will tell a person, tells us about the person, animal, place, or thing. And in this case, the adjectives will tell us how many. And if we say Kim sees two trees, then it means that we will two trees, right? So the question is, or let's say they will just tell you how many trees? Two trees, and they will just say two. Yes. And remember, we said that you need to ask yourself what kind, and you need to ask yourself how many. And now, if we look at these pictures, it says, how many beds are there? So if they want to know how many beds there are, and then we can say that there are two beds. And if we look at the amount of beds, it'll be like one, two, and you tell yourself, how many beds are there? There are two beds, right? So we can say how many beds are there? And we go with there are two beds. And then also how many trains are there? So we need to look at the trains and count the amount of trains. Not the carriages like one, two, the trains, the actual long train that carries goods and people. All right, and if we ask ourselves how many trains there are, and then we will say there are three trains. Oopsie. So it's 3 points, three trains. So how many trains are there? There are three trains. All right, so now we're going on to our test. And we are using number words. So if we look at this picture, right, how many airplanes are there? Do we have two airplanes or do we have one? How many airplanes do we have? Two or one? Because now we are by the adjectives that tells us how many, right? So they will tell us either how many people, places, things, or animals. So we can say there are two airplanes, right? So two airplanes. And that is correct. Because all we do is we count, right? So how many dishes are there? So how many dishes are there? So if we count the dishes, we have one, two, three, four, five. So now we need to say how many dishes are there? Are there five dishes or are there 10 dishes? And how many dishes are there? We can say there are five dishes because we counted that there are five dishes and five are correct. We need to say how many bags there are. And if we count the bags, 1, 2, 3. So how many bags are there? Are there 8 bags or are there 3 bags? Which means that everybody's going to choose 3 bags. And 3 is great. And then now we need to say, how many cakes are there? How many cakes are there? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So how many cakes are there? Here we have 2 and here we have 8. So 8. All right. And for this, that tells us how many, right? We'll say there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll say that there are 8. All right. So how many cars are there? So how many cars are there? And if we look at the cars, we'll say there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we can say there are 6 cars all together. And how many balls are there? So we need to count the balls, whether it's small balls or big balls, as long as we find out how many of the things are here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Because if we count we say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if we count the balls and they ask us how many balls are there, we'll say there are 7 balls. And the 7 is correct. So how many beds are there? And we can say there are 2 beds. And 2 is correct. So now we have to say how many coins are there? Here we have, or pennies. Another word for penny is coins. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So how many are there? We said 9 pennies or 9 coins. And 9 is correct. How many ponies do we see in this picture? How many ponies do we see in this picture? So how many ponies do we see on this picture or in the picture? And if we say how many ponies we see in this picture, right, we will say we only see one pony. So we need to ask ourselves, how many pictures are there? So how many pictures are there? So we have one, two, and three, which means that if we say there's three pictures, we're going to say there are three paintings. All right, and three is correct. So well done, three is correct. How many tins or cans are there of tomato soup? There's one, two, three, four, and so how many cans are there? And we can say there are five cans, yes. So well done, five cans is correct. And now we're looking at this beautiful basket. How many baskets do we see in this picture? So how many baskets are there? Do we say one or are there six? And there's only one, right? All right, let's look at the last one. It says how many cats are there? We have one, two, three, four, five, six. How many cats do we see? Do we see seven cats or do we see three cats? Do we see seven cats or three cats? So now if we want to see how many cats there are, we can say there are seven cats. All right. So this is now the end of our lesson, grade 1 on adjectives. And we said adjectives, it tells us more about the people or person, animal, place, or thing, or we can say it describes the person, place, animal, or thing. We have adjectives that tells us how many, and adjectives that also tells us what kind. All right, so thank you very much for joining our class. Till next time, goodbye.